Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Be the Wellness Podcast. Before we go on to the next episode, I want to take a second to invite you to visit our website, BeTheWellness.com, where you can check out our blog and find out more about our various offerings, including our annual paleo retreat in Costa Rica. To help spread the word about our remote coaching program, Unveil Your Wellness, we're also offering a free 15-minute introductory consultation to anyone who has questions about what we have to offer. Check us out at BeTheWellness.com. That's BeTheWellness.com. Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome everyone to another fantastic episode of Be the Wellness Podcast. Adam and Vanessa Lambert here with another outstanding guest, Mr. Stuart Doyle, also known as @Primordial Stu. Say hello.
Well, hello. Good morning. I'm so honored to be here.
Well, we're so excited to have you, Stu. You're like a little celebrity in our tribe.
Totally.
I don't know about celebrity. Crazy old shaman, maybe.
I'll take that though. Yeah, crazy old shaman. That's a pretty
because they told the stories and stuff like that. So
yeah, well, you definitely are the ultimate storyteller, and I think for those of you who listen to the podcast but aren't necessarily in the program with us, Stu is known for very lengthy and very colorful storytelling practices. And it's always fun to see your goings on, just your normal day-to-day operations at it's what seems like a farm, right? I mean, essentially you have kind of a farm operation going there.
Yeah, basically I turned a exurb 1 acre, well, it's about 1.5 acres actually, lot into a poultry producing and garden. There's very little lawn left.
nice.
But and I've been very busy canning.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like it. Stu's posting pictures every day of just the very well organized, regimented lines of jars, which is pleasing to me.
Yeah, you have a regular homesteading operation going on there.
Well, I'm giving it an attempt within my zoning laws. Put it that way.
Yeah. We're not breaking any rules around here.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, that's awesome. So, before we started recording, we had just kind of started to talk a little bit about what you've got going on, and let's just hear you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you've been up to, how you got started on this path. Athletic background, pretty much anything you want to talk about.
All right. Well, as you too well know, my verbosity knows no bounds. So, all right. So I'm in high school and I joined the Marines. I spent 4 years in the active Marines and 3 in the active reserves. Got out of that. Moved to New York City, did a little ghost writing that I absolutely starved on, so became a bank teller. Got held up once too often because they had a very young Marine, so they put me in the only branch that didn't have glass in New York City.
Whoops.
Which, yeah, well, we got robbed about twice a month.
What?
Wait, I love how nonchalantly you're interweaving this. Oh yeah, and it got robbed too many times. Like at gunpoint, people just come in and
Twice a month?
yeah.
Well, actually, the last time I'd had too much because the guy was so nervous he dropped the gun. It went off, and it actually grazed the shot. Not grazed,
Right.
You get hit by a bullet, it still hurts.
Yeah,
even if it doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, this is time to. So I got a job at Crazy Eddie's.
What is Crazy Eddie's?
Anybody's old enough to remember the Saturday night skits on the takeoff that they used to do on his commercials, but his prices are insane.
What is it? What is it?
Well, it was like a stereo and TV discounter, that had absolute rock bottom prices, and it was just
Monday.
nasty. Yeah, very similar, very similar. But then I started cooking. I just wandered into a deli, and it was a mom and pop operation, and the Italian woman who was the mom part of it took me under her wing, and about 5 years later, I was a chef and did that for about 10 years. Wound up going to all kinds of places within the country, because I'd been to quite a few with courtesy of Uncle Sam.
Right.
And but that was when we were, NATO was just one big happy family, and everybody was ready for the Reds to come through pull the gap in, in West Germany, and so it was a very different time and a very different.
And were you cooking in New York City, Stu? Are you still there?
Yeah, no, I'm not in New York City now. I'm in a place called Landenberg, Pennsylvania, which is very near Kennett Square, which is the self-proclaimed mushroom capital of the world.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, last night we were food shopping, and, I have to admit that once in a while, if there wasn't organic mushrooms, I'd be like, I kind of want them. But last night I could see Stu's words, do not get organic mushrooms, and your description of just the terrible situation for non-organic mushrooms. So,
well, it's just scary to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You have these municipal waste trucks pulling in.
Ugh.
And and mushrooms are what, 90% water, something like that.
Right, I'm sure.
And they grow real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I can't imagine. And I think they're not on the Dirty Dozen because it's not a pesticide issue.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
That's a good point. You don't. You read about these things like the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 or whatever it is, and you just sort of take for granted that they're looking at all of the factors, potential problems.
Right.
Yeah,
but they're not.
Yeah. and so I it's whenever you get up close and personal with something, you're like, maybe I don't want to do that. Yeah.
So to circle back, you're cooking.
Yes. So
Italian restaurant.
Right. I'm cooking, and I'm moving all over the country because I'm still single, and I wander back to where I grew up in southeastern Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. I got to tell you the story of how I met my wife, right? Okay. So I decided to go back to the church that I grew up in, right? And I'm like, I haven't been to church in years. Why not? Let's see what's going on. And I'm liking the pastor. It's just a Methodist church, so it's nothing, nothing.
It's not Scientology.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's almost like Bible Light, right?
Bible Light.
Yeah. I'm pulling. The service ends. I'm pulling out of the parking lot, and this young lady pulls in front of me, backs her car up in front of me, and just sits there. And it's a pretty tight parking lot. I can't get out. I'm like, what's going on here? And she's sitting there, and sitting there. And it's like 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. So I put my car in park, walk over, and say, is there something I can help you with? And she's like, my car won't go out of reverse. And I'm like, no, come on now. And I tried, and sure enough, it won't. So we play with it for a little bit. Oh, boom, it goes into park and then into drive. And so while we're doing that, she's telling me about this other Bible study that actually hails from the neck of the woods you guys come from. It's Calvary Chapel. Mm-hmm. And I guess it was the old Jesus freaks that were left over from the San Francisco flower children days. Because they all wear Hawaiian shirts, and there's not a cross in the place, just a big dove. And they're really, really, really into music.
Sounds like my kind of church.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had a really good time. And she's like, well, why don't you come to this Bible study with me? And I wound up marrying her a year later.
Oh,
So,
that's sweet.
Yeah, but, we had that car for a good 11 years, and it never had that same problem again.
That is so interesting.
It's just like certain things happen in your life, and it's like, okay, I don't know, fate, kismet, God, I don't know.
Whatever it is, yeah.
There it is.
Well,
so anyway.
Yeah, you're obviously meant to be.
Precisely. So we get married, and I decided that she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. I decided we find a good place to open a deli so that I can ply my trade and she can stay at home. So we find a little house that's zoned correctly that has a mother-in-law suite. I turn the mother-in-law suite into a deli, and it's an instant success. As a matter of fact, so much of a success that the local people who kind of ran the township had a problem with it, and because they were in the sandwich business too.
What are the odds?
Was it The Sopranos?
No, but local politics is local politics, and so at any rate, there was a lot of pressure and stuff like that. I was only getting about 4 hours of sleep because I'm doing catering at probably not as much as I should have charged, which I need to take both of you to task over. Not that you need to raise the Be the Wellness program, but at any rate.
Yes.
Don't you worry about us. We've got a secret evil plan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. So basically, I wind up having a heart attack at 37.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, and it was a pretty massive one. I currently have 3 stents. I've been cast 7 times.
Wow.
And so this is about 15 years ago.
So where were you when you had your heart attack?
I was actually lying down under my Christmas tree in my living room.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was feeling a lot of angina, and I was like, something's not right. I think maybe I should go to the hospital. I go to the hospital, and it was actually in the emergency room on the table that I actually had the heart attack.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that was probably lucky given how massive it was.
Yeah, it really was.
Okay, Stu, so you're in the hospital and you are laying on the hospital table and you have your heart attack. That's where we left off before we had our little disruption here. So tell us what happened next.
Okay, so I have to tell you, heart attacks really, 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 really hurt.
Oh, I bet.
It's basically, God puts his hand around your chest, squeezes as hard as he can, and says, "You're not going to breathe." And so the ER doctor saved my life. Then I had all kinds of, got life flighted down to a hospital where they could do cath and stents, and angioplasties and stuff like that. So that, like I said, this is about 15 years ago. So I'm put on, the standard cardiac patient diet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And my lipids start to increase dramatically. And every year I'm gaining from 10 to 20 pounds a year. This is keeping calories between 1,700 and 2,000 a day, and doing exactly what they're saying.
Which is low fat and
Lots of healthy grains.
Right. Mm-hmm. So what were you eating? Like, what was your diet like before you actually had the heart attack? Was it dramatically different than the post-heart attack diet that they put you on, or what was the situation?
It was dramatically different. I was running a deli. I was getting really lousy nutrition because the way I cook is I taste things. I don't necessarily follow a recipe. Okay, so it's like I'll add some of whatever, let's say cinnamon, and where it might be a tablespoon, I might need a little bit more than a tablespoon or whatever. And so, I know the basic ingredients, but I basically mix, right? So my diet was probably a lot more saturated fat than I could handle at the time because I was eating the simple carbs also.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you have were you pretty heavy on the sugar as well? Like actual refined sugar?
I was in my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
The white sugar in my coffee was awful. Plus, about, I would say, a quarter of my business and about half of my catering business was pastries.
Mm.
So heavy on the butter, right? Heavy on the butter and heavy on the white processed sugar, and the combination is just it's deadly.
Right.
And so my arteries are clogged, and I smoked all my life, which certainly doesn't help anything. And every year I'm gaining between 10 and 20 pounds. So, I'm asking my cardiologist what's going on. So I get another prescription. By this time, 2 years ago, this time I was 357 pounds on a 5'6" frame.
Wow.
Yeah. I tell you, if I hadn't have previously been a Marine, I don't know that I could have moved at all.
Yeah.
I would get winded going up a flight of stairs. That's for certain. I had migraines. I got psoriatic arthritis. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I went from being pre-diabetic 2 or 3 years after the heart attack on their diet, and never had been before, to everyone's shock,
right?
To full-blown, and I was on 17 different medications.
Oh, wow. My goodness.
Yeah. So it was my eldest son's birthday, and about a month before that, I had been to the cardiologist, and he said, "Stu, it's time for us to talk." And he said, I've healed you as much as I can. You continue to gain weight. I know that there have been a couple of points where you dropped 50 or 60 pounds, and that was great. And I did that from being in the gym 5 or 6 hours a day.
Right.
But I couldn't break that 250 mark, which is still pretty darn heavy on a 5'6" frame.
Totally.
Yeah.
You must have been feeling so defeated.
Well, yeah, it really was, especially after he said, "Look, it's time to get your affairs in order. I know that you have, 2 relatively young kids. They were infants when, you were a toddler and an infant when I first met you. But, you need to plan on not seeing them graduate high school."
My goodness.
Yeah.
That's a heavy blow to take.
Yeah, I mean, just take a beat here a second. So I kicked that idea around for about a month, and I watched a video from Dr. Robert Lustig.
Uh-huh.
The sugar guy, right?
Yeah.
From the American Heart Association. And I'm going, I wonder what, a calorie is not a calorie, huh? Okay, well, let me see what happens. Because I had noticed over the past 20 years that things that I cooked with were now different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even in the commercial business, where
you mean that the products themselves were different, like when you Right. Shortening was not the same shortening.
Precisely. Shortening was not, it had different ingredients in it than it used to. It had more. Okay. A number 10 can of diced tomatoes was different than it was when I started cooking. It now contained sugar by certain other names or other things other than tomatoes, salt, and water.
Right.
And so I said, okay, if sugar is, and my youngest came home from school and he said, hey, Dad, if you read an ingredients on a label and sugar is the first, second, or third ingredient, it's dessert, not food. And I
Fair
said,
play.
okay, well, let's do that. So I kind of did a mini pantry clean, and I lost like 2 pounds the first week by doing nothing but eliminating sugar as an ingredient. I was still taking sugar in my coffee and stuff.
Right.
So I watched the Lustig videos, and I'm going, well, this guy's got something, because a calorie is not a calorie. And I said, the maybe it's the preservatives too. So cut out the preservatives. All of a sudden, I'm losing 5 pounds a week. That's
and you hadn't found or read any of the primal paleo stuff, right? This is all just sort of self-experimentation based on some of what Dr. Lustig was doing?
Precisely. And at that time, it was exactly it. And I think I was looking at preservatives or something like that, and I probably mistyped something. And I wound up on the Mark Sisson's site.
Somebody's Apple. Wait, who's this Mark guy?
Yeah, right, exactly. So then I'm seeing, what functionally, and if he ever listens to this, I hope he doesn't take offense, but what essentially is a broken down old triathlete.
Yeah.
Right.
Who is now, Rocky Balboa coming back for his 13th fight, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, all right, well, let's give this a shot. And I did. It took me probably about 5 weeks, as opposed to the 21 days, to truly be a fat burner.
Right.
But I think that's because the more toxins you have in you, the longer it takes.
Yeah, totally. If you think about the amount of time it took to get you into that situation, it's not necessarily an equal amount of time to get you out of it, but there's definitely going to be some individual variability there.
Right, exactly. And I mean, you guys have seen the before picture of me compared with the now. And that was actually after I'd lost some weight already by not doing the sugar and the and I'd been on the primal 21-day transformation and being on a primal diet for probably about 6 or 7 weeks by that time.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. So you probably did see some pretty dramatic, like especially the water weight and stuff.
Precisely. The only reason I was like, wow, look at how thin I am. And that's the fat picture.
That's awesome.
I look great in this picture. And then
I was so impressed with it. And then I joined Be the Wellness, and it was like, I melted.
That's amazing.
I was the Wicked Witch, And,
so you actually followed the 21-day transformation program?
I do. I'm pretty much an advocate of Sisson's Primal Blueprint. Mm-hmm. I'm a certified expert in it.
Awesome.
But I'll never have the physical training aspect that you guys provide. So basically, what I'm just started this fledgling business, being a primal consultant, if you will, offering. Yeah.
Well, it's such a great way to get people on the path.
Well, yeah, and I have a couple of outlets where I'm now peddling my GMO, soy-free, organic eggs.
Awesome.
And, I have flyers up there also for my, same idea, heritage turkeys and quail and ducks and chickens. And I've made a couple of sales here and there. I'm never going to be a big producer or anything like that. I primarily do it for my foodstuffs.
Right, to support your own habits.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, that's a very, very famous dealer thing.
Yeah. I only sell to keep myself in stock.
Exactly. So, but so this new thing is consulting. What I really hope to do is get people on the path, give them some. Do a pantry check with them, stuff like that. Get them through the 21-day or month or 2-week, depending upon how poisoned they are.
Right.
And dump them on you guys.
Well, no, that's awesome. And I think that's how you found us in the first place, right? You went through the 21-day transformation at the end of last January, right? Or last January.
Because being a chef is a dangerous business.
Oh yeah.
So I'm feeling good about the weight I'm at. I'm probably down to I don't know, about 230. But no, you know what? I went down to about 200, and at my dentist, and I'm like, wow, this is really working great. So then I found all of the joys of nut flour.
Right.
This is always what happens.
Yeah, being a chef, I couldn't help but impress everyone I knew who was like, would you shut up about this primal stuff? All you eat is meat,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how about all those things that I normally make between Thanksgiving and Christmas for the holidays? I'll make them all primal this year. And I did. And I ate them all.
Because they're so delicious.
So I'm at 230 when the new year comes around, and I'm like, okay, well, I did this primally, and but I probably was eating like 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day. It was just nuts. Went through the transformation where you guys were coaches, and you got me. What can I say? I'm like gum on your shoe. Go ahead.
That's good gum.
Well, we have been called infectious before.
There you go.
Well, no, and it's so amazing because so many folks. There was, I think, 15,000 people in that Primal Blueprint Challenge.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah. It was, bursting at the seams, and it's been interesting to see who's come in to Be the Wellness and stuck with it. And we've got kind of a core group that sort of came from that initial Primal Blueprint challenge, and it's been cool because we're going on almost a year. We're coming right up on a year together.
Yeah, I know. It really is. I've made some really, really good friends, even though I've never met them. Well, I actually did meet one the other day.
Yeah, we heard that. You had a...
Yeah, I had a talk with Mike yesterday or day before yesterday, something like that. Well, whenever that makes sense. I'm not sure when this podcast can go up. I talked to Mike.
Yes.
He said you guys had coffee. That's cool.
Unfortunately, life got in the way, but... as it will, but I'm sure we'll do it again because we don't live that far away. I'm really wishing that everybody lived that close, but
Yes, yeah. I know that's the beauty of this program is that we can be far apart and feel connected, but the sad thing is we're all so far apart.
Yeah. Exactly, we're all so far apart.
Yeah,
but
we were just talking last night about how we kind of miss having the primal cons, which were it was Mark's big to do where everybody would come out because we'd go and coach those, and it was so much fun. You'd have like 150 people there that you get to power through everybody and teach some stuff, and it was something that we really enjoyed. So we're trying to figure out a way to reconstruct some of that, but there's a reason they don't do it anymore. It's a tremendous amount of work, and it's a tremendous, effort to pull all that stuff together.
Yeah.
But
and
so
they
cool,
found
though.
that everyone says they want to come, but they don't actually come.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and if unless I'm wrong, Costa Rica is coming up.
It is. Well, ish.
Yeah.
February.
February, yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
So we
right.
found that trying to keep them a little bit smaller helps so that, people can, the true dedicated people come. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But, it's just an opportunity for us to put something together that, and actually Costa Rica, even though it's in Central America, is kind of convenient for people logistically because it's easy to access from the East Coast and
It's
the
on
West
Central
Coast.
Time, right?
Yeah.
So, you fly right into the middle.
So you're kind of in the
Very
middle,
true.
which is cool.
Very true. I do want to bring up the fact that so I'm on 17 medications. I got psoriatic arthritis. I've got fibromyalgia. I've got 5 stents. Every couple of years they take me back in and give me another angioplasty. And since going primal, my last visit to the cardiologist, he took a look at my lipid panel and he said, "Wow, that Crestor is really working for you." and I said, "I haven't taken it in over a year, bud." And he's like, "Well, no. It's not that thing you're doing. It can't be that. It must be something else." I'm like, "Well, no, it is." Okay. And he's like, "Well, your blood pressure's great. I said, "Look, I haven't taken anything except my blood thinners. And that's because I eat so many greens now. And the stents that you put in to save my life, I'm afraid of blocking with thick blood."
Right.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, that's a good idea to stay on those."
Yes.
So basically, I'm down to 2 medications.
Wow.
And it's just Plavix and Coumadin.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which are essentially blood thinners. My diabetes markers are amazing. I feel better than I did when I was 18 in the Marine Corps. And my psoriatic arthritis is virtually non-existent. I still have a little bit of joint pain. Gee, guess when? After I eat something with processed food in it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, man. All these little things just keep sneaking in, that really will just make you feel poorly,
Well, what I really have noticed that is so true is that the cleaner you eat, the more the smallest things affect you.
Yeah, and it's weird because you would think it would be the opposite. Everything, your body's so clean and everything's so good to go that you would have the ability to buffer these little variances, and that has just not been my experience. The healthier I am, it's the worst. One little dip of soy sauce or even a drink will just put me under.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I totally agree, and I think it's because for the first time in probably all of my life, actually, my body's doing what it's supposed to.
Right.
So my liver has time to not just process alcohol and toxins, but when it does get the slightest bit of toxin, it's going, "Hey, pal."
Right.
Yeah, wait a minute.
You just ate poison.
And then I think there's like a thing too. It's similar with the sleep situation where like you don't really even know if you're underslept until you've actually had enough sleep, right? And then you can look back and go, "Oh wow, I was spending a lot of time underslept." And we're just so good at coping that I think that's maybe part of the deal, right? So like you finally give your body a chance to correct a bunch of the deficiencies, and now you know what it feels like to feel good. So a little bit of a hangover feels atrocious,
Exactly, and that I'm glad you brought that up because not only does a hangover feel atrocious now, but I spent 15 years on a CPAP machine.
Oh, wow.
Which I don't need any longer.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
But I didn't not need it until
Be the Wellness, not just the Prime, because I wasn't getting 8 hours of sleep.
Right.
Now that I get 8 hours of sleep, my oxygenation is 98, 99, and blood oxygen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it used to be 96 with the CPAP.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a dramatic difference. That's like the difference between going to the hospital and not.
Yeah, and it's the difference between feeling tired all the time and much like my awakening 15 months ago or so, where for the first time in my life, I felt full.
Yes.
Before that, I felt stuffed, but I'm hitting the peanut M&Ms, 2 hours later.
Right. Yeah, it's a difference between full and satisfied.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And it's just, oh man, I can't shut up about this program.
Well, no, it's amazing because, a lot of folks do come into it through Primal Blueprint or through some kind of 30-day program. So it's cool to hear from your perspective, actually coming from that program and then now having done ours for going on 11 months now. And kind of hearing, the difference and how, the shift that happens and sort of the emphasis that we have in our program that's made, tweaks for you. And so you said you were at 230 in January when you did the Primal Blueprint Challenge?
Correct.
And where are you at now?
I'm at 178 as of this morning.
Wow. And is that the fittest you've been since you were a Marine?
Oh, yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
actually, I think I may be fitter now than then.
Wow.
You were relying on youth and tenacity.
Yeah.
My right and left crotch. Yep.
Yeah. I know both those. Actually, one of them's going away, but I still have the tenacity.
Precisely.
So that is pretty remarkable, honestly. And it's, I would say, given what you just said about the changes in sleep and the way that you've been able to get off your CPAP, I would almost guarantee that 80% of that is from improved sleep. It's just so wickedly important that, you just can't.
Yeah, it is. And it has been a struggle this summer to get a full 8 hours. But, I'll power nap for 20 or 30 minutes and that certainly helps.
Yeah, totally. So I think, and I think that we talk about this quite a bit, but that idea that the longer photo period, right, during the longer days of summer, I don't think there's anything wrong with, being awake a little bit longer and having that little bit shorter sleep cycle, right, as long as when the days go short, you follow the pattern. That's where so many people get stuck, is that they get used to the party days of summer, where it's light until 9 o'clock and they're up and they're doing all of this stuff and their day fits into that schedule. And then next thing you know, it's, you're now cutting into the significant dark time.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that. I found that last winter, after I joined the program, I was getting 8 hours or 9. I felt a lot more recharged. And, with the whole microfarm thing, and I must give a plug to the meditation, because
I got you, Stu. I got you.
In your wicked web.
Yep.
You're stuck
You
now.
never knew you'd love that web so much, did you?
I tell you what, I was like, Eastern mysticism, mumbo jumbo, hocus pocus. Oh, give me a break. And I was like, okay, fine. You know what? I would have said that about this lifestyle 10 years ago. So let me give it a shot. And you're amazing.
Aww. That's how I feel about you.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's, and it's funny because actually I just took a new class recently that was a different sort of mindfulness technique. And one of the things that I think about mindfulness in general is maybe it's not even the meditation, or maybe it's not even, whatever you're actually doing. Maybe it's just the intention that you're setting that says, okay, I'm going to try to take some time for myself to quiet and calm down and maybe work through some of the noise. And whether or not it's the actual meditation or not, it's just maybe like you're taking time for yourself to address some of the, the rumblings that are under the surface all the time. So, who knows what actually works, but I think it's just important that everyone's trying to address all the different facets of their wellness picture.
Right. And you know what? That makes a lot of sense because, the way I look at the whole primal blueprint is, that's like, okay, so I now have this wonderful house, okay? And the primal blueprint is the frame of it and the studs and the joists, okay?
Right.
But it wasn't a home. It wasn't a full lifestyle without the wellness. It was a great diet and a good guideline to try and go by, but just using a basket in the grocery market and walking as much as I could and sprinting twice a week, it made me feel a lot better, but I can tell you my body fat percentage has gone down dramatically.
I'm sure.
With you guys. And, I have a VA therapist, right? He's like, I can't believe the change in you.
A physical therapist?
No.
Yeah, okay. The other kind.
Yeah. PTS. And, he's just like, what's the secret? And I tell them, and their eyes just kind of glaze over because they're like, that's not a medication. Right, exactly. What do you mean you're not taking Prozac?
Yeah. Man.
This is actually, I would really love to talk about this a little bit more if you don't mind, Stu. Can you give us a little bit more information on this? Because you suffer from PTSD, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that part of the picture, that would be wonderful because there's a lot of folks out there that have similar things. As you've noticed in the feed, we've got a couple people with similar stuff going on.
It's I think an awful lot more people have it than ever get close to being diagnosed.
Totally agree.
I don't think it is absolutely limited to the military or first responders I believe that just any kind of serious traumatic event in your life will leave a scar.
Right.
And, if you don't, if you have a wound and you don't treat it properly, it's going to fester the rest of your life.
Right. Even if it's just a splinter.
Precisely.
It's like it doesn't need to be a full amputation. If it's not cared for well, it's problematic.
Exactly. And it's ironic because my VA guy is pretty it got diagnosed as a pre-existing condition, of course.
Yes.
welcome to the VA.
Oh, you came here. Jeez.
And they basically said because my father died when I was 14 and pretty much in my arms, that's when I got it. And the fact that the radio blew up 5 feet away from me with another guy next to it didn't really cause anything.
Right.
That's actually the last surgery I had was taking a resistor out of my leg.
Oh my
gosh. It's
gosh.
been there for 25 years. Yeah, and the change in the levels of rage and inexplicable anger takes a lot to set me off now.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's nothing like it was. I mean, my family and all my close friends were like, what's happened to you? What are you on now?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
amazing.
What are you taking now? Because it seems
Right.
pretty cool.
And so,
Yeah.
what do you think it is? I mean, obviously, I know the mindfulness, but what exactly? Like, is it just? Do you feel like you're able to, just control the physical reaction better, or what is it that you feel is like the difference physically or emotionally?
I've obviously done a little bit of thinking about that, and I really think it's a strange theory I have, but okay, here it goes, is that when you're inducing your body, when you're dosing your body with poisons, okay, your systems can't work correctly. Then you're prescribed medications for to basically replace what your organs are supposed to be doing. So your organs, if you're anything like me, you're a pretty lazy guy. My organs are just as lazy as I am.
Right.
They would much rather, my digestive system would much rather not have to work and eat flour and sugar.
Right.
Right? But when I feed it fat or, look at it like a furnace and, okay, now I'm burning oil. Well, you know what? It's lazy too. It likes burning the oil. It's burning the fat. So, rather than say, let's have some carbs. I would have to do something differently. There's plenty of fat right here. Well, let me just burn that.
Right. Path of least resistance.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I think that, the whole thing with the sugar and the leptin in it that blocks, the endocrine problems that sugar creates
Right.
in your brain is a lot like the various different additives in food that your liver can't handle.
Right.
Well, if you're on a statin, you're getting what you need, and your liver isn't really doing anything. As a matter of fact, it stops doing what it's supposed to do. In my case, it was too busy processing alcohol. I'd been in and out of AA for 20 years. It's one of the side benefits of PTS and self-medicating. I went primal, and it was probably just shy of this time last year when my wife looked at me one night and she said, you haven't had a drink in months. And I swear, my reaction, my internal reaction was, damn, I forgot.
That's awesome.
Whoops. Yeah.
I forgot about my addiction.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. John Barleycorn, my best friend? How did I meet him? And, with the exception of the occasional very old, very good scotch with a real good bud, or, a nice full body glass of red with a really deep, decent meal. I think over the past year, I might have had 3 or 4 drinks.
Wow.
Right.
And it's nothing like it was. Not to mention the fact I get wasted on like tuna.
Yeah. Cheap date. Yeah.
I used to, pack away a fifth a night. So.
Well, and I think that's cool that actually you can still have a drink here and there. That's, a lot of folks that quit have to quit completely. And obviously, people have to do what's best for their overall health. But I think that's interesting that you're able to actually balance it now.
Well, yeah, I'm a man of many theories. Okay, so the other crazy theory I have is maybe a lot of people that are alcoholics aren't alcoholics. They're addicted to grain in any form.
That could be.
Total.
Especially with beer. I mean, I know when
Yeah.
you tell men that are beer drinkers, when you talk about this diet and you say you can't have beer or, it's recommended you don't, it's like...
Yeah, you think you're taking their birthdays away.
Yeah.
It's an irrational response.
It is, yeah. I've had men just get mad at me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
which is very similar to the way that people react when you tell them that they can't eat bread. Now,
Yes.
the gluten thing has become popular enough now that people are like, okay, well, I was expecting you to say that, but before
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
like, what? How am I going to have a sandwich? You're like, well, maybe you're not. I don't know. It's not working for you so far.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think one of the things I think with, and I think it's the same with just about every system in the body, but especially when you start talking about the PTSD or just any sort of the mental load component of our lives, which is just obviously higher or more chronic, I should say, than it probably ever has been, right? I mean, Mark's book, Primal Connection, I don't know if you've read that or not, but it's great.
Yes.
I mean, it really details a lot of what I think probably the real deal is with just the way that our brains work and all this stuff. And then you throw on top of it some of these significant stressors without necessarily the tribal community that you would have had if this was, a war with your neighboring tribe and you saw your brother get clubbed to death or whatever, right? So you don't get that communal healing component in the majority of our, daily lives in the current world. So that stuff just builds up. And the way that I've kind of been able to visualize it is the more stressors that you take off of your body, the lower your allostatic load, the more headroom you have to sort of buffer new traumas and then also go back and kind of start to sort through the old ones, right? If your body is constantly fighting just to stay alive, whether it's from food or from, your work stress or whatever the situation is, you're never going to get to the backlog. And I think that's where it's been huge for a lot of people is just giving themselves the space finally to kind of work on some of this stuff, especially with sleep.
I think that's entirely true because, and when you start eating clean, so, I don't have the toxins. So my systems are now doing what they're supposed to. And what virtually nobody's do, except if you're, a higher form of human and not a throwback like myself. I mean, let's face it, if natural selection was still around, I wouldn't be here. I think it's the whole, I think the brain is very similar to your kidneys, your liver. Once it starts doing what it's supposed to and not constantly blocked or drugged, then it can process the things better. And I'm going to plug the meditation again. It's it has helped so much, and maybe only because it's things that I wouldn't have revisited, or I wouldn't have been able to revisit without significant trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
Vanessa has a way of digging up things for people.
Is that a splinter?
She's like, oh, by the way, imagine yourself completely naked on a stage in front of a bunch of people that hate you. How does that feel? Like, Jesus, this is awful.
Adam was actually editing some of those, and he's like, "This is intense,
super embarrassing."
Yeah, and for those of you out there who don't know about the meditations or haven't had the privilege of experimenting with that kind of torture, in the meditations, I will actually ask folks to revisit, sometimes uncomfortable memories or, issues in their past to try to work through some of that trauma. And, it's not like I'm some special guru that has this special training about how to do this, but I just know in my lifetime, these are issues that I've had to look at. And I think all of us do. Like you said, we all have trauma, and nobody's teaching us or addressing how to even go back and look at things and feel like we're in a safe place or we're, supported or whatever. And that we're not weird for doing it.
Right. Or, and even not necessarily just supporting it, but actively pushing that down.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't dig this up. Yeah. Just leave it buried,
Right.
Yeah, but I entirely agree. But I also think that if there are the toxins that are in the additives, that things that aren't food that are in our food.
Right.
Totally.
I think they're messing with our wiring too.
Absolutely.
Where it doesn't make you nuts, but you can't fix nuts anymore.
Yeah. Oh, totally. So there's, I mean, a large part of the way that the majority of antidepressants work is by blocking the reuptake of serotonin, right? So they're selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And what that does is flood your brain with more serotonin, which is great until your brain does what it does and starts shutting down serotonin receptors. You essentially become serotonin resistant to some degree, kind of like you would with insulin. And which is why people can't just stop taking those things, right? Because if you just stop taking them, then all of a sudden you're going to tumble into some very deep depression, right? And you see a similar thing. We know that there's this sort of opioid response that comes along with grains specifically and with carbohydrates in general, especially like straight sugar, the super sweet stuff, that you get that dopaminergic response. You get that little bit of serotonin boost in there. And I don't know. I mean, some people will go as far as to say that it's actually addicting. And I think that the word addiction really carries a lot of sort of preconceived notions with it. So I'm not necessarily going to jump on that bandwagon, whether it's physically addicting or mentally addicting. Either way, you're triggering a bunch of neurotransmitters when you eat these highly processed, highly refined foods that over time become desensitized. And there's no doubt about it that when you pull that stuff out of your life over time, after everything kind of starts to normalize a little bit, now you have the neurochemistry in your brain to be like actually normal again.
Well, and I think that's, it appears to me that every aspect of my body can heal itself.
Yeah.
Obviously if I get a serious cut, I have to help it.
Right.
But, I'm not applying flesh. I'm applying a Band-Aid, or getting stitches or something like that. And then I heal. The same thing, I believe, is true of the brain so long as it's not blocked with stuff. And I think that a lot of the stuff that's in our food is blocking it and we don't even know it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because, the FDA saying not known to be harmful to humans is not the same as food.
Yeah. Generally regarded as safe. You're like, what?
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about this in the month that we spent talking about household products and chemicals in our cosmetics and even the products we use. I was amazed to find out that the FDA doesn't regulate cosmetics, that they actually depend on the cosmetics to report back and say, oh, you know what? Actually, this is really bad for people.
Yeah, it sells like crazy, but man, is it bad for people?
Yeah.
No one ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's that whole, we're going to take speed limits, stop signs, and traffic lights away. Everybody will just drive safe. Yeah. Come on. It's in their best interest.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy just to think of all of the places that we have to combat it. We have to, block things out at all angles because we really are infiltrated with all of these chemicals and all of these toxins all the time. So, yeah, it takes a pretty fastidious person to stay on top of all of the stuff, all of the places that these things are sneaking in.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And the thing is that I think that we as animals are set up to handle a certain amount of poison.
Of course, we're very resilient, yeah.
If it's in one aspect of our lives, occasionally I will still use Dawn detergent.
Right, right.
I don't know what's in the stuff, but it works great.
It sure does cut grease, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to know what's in the stuff. And if I'm being exposed to a poison I'll probably be okay with that because I do the rest of my cleaning with borax. So, whatever. And Dr. Bronner's. So, but,
it's like Adam said, just bringing down that load, that allostatic load, bringing as much of it down so that you do have that headroom so that you can go, all right, I'm using Dawn or.
Yeah. And not be so weird about the whole thing that it stresses you out even further, right? Where it's like, oh my God, I'm so concerned about any of this, that this, when this rag was washed in, whatever sort of detergent, and now I've got my hands on it, it's like, come on, there's a point, where you just need to kind of take care of everything that you can, that you have easy access to, and well, not even easy, but take care of the underlying issues, and then just let your system buffer everything else.
That's. I mean, you and I have spoken about it before. Well, text or whatever, posted about that. That's really what I believe the 80-20 rule is about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Is you can't sweat everything because who needs that kind of cortisol worried about something like that.
Yeah. And that is actually, I think it's a really common misconception about the 80-20 rule, that people look at it like, oh, well, just everything in moderation. And you're like, no, that's not really what they mean. What they mean is don't worry yourself, but be as strict as you possibly can. Right. Because 20% of your life is going to be, things you didn't even know were bad for you, right? Like we find new things all the time, you're like, oh no, well, there's 15 of my 20% right there.
Like mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly. So now that you're starting to work with folks and consult them and sort of talk to them about this journey, where do you start them? Do you start folks with diet? Do you start them with emotional aspects? What's kind of your jumping off point when you're getting people integrated?
It's funny because I've only talked to, a few family members about it, some close friends, and very limited to some of my organic food customers.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because I got the whole, primordial stew, primal provisions and provender going on.
Awesome.
Which is, turkey, ground turkey, chickens, ducks, eggs. Most of them are either paleo and not really interested in the exercise aspect.
Mm-hmm.
If that's fine. There are a certain percentage. I just spoke with what will be my test victim this morning. And she's morbidly obese, and it was because I was in a bank. She actually had to have my license. So she took a look at my license. She said, "It doesn't look like you."
Oh, wow. You're walking before and after picture.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm like, no, it really is. And she's looking at it, and I give her some more ID. And she's like, okay, holy smokes, you lost a lot of weight. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm half the man I used to be, And she said, well, how'd you do it? And they just, okay, here you go.
You asked, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, she was all freaked out that she can't have tortillas, rice, and beans. But I told her, look, we'll start on Monday. All right? And just go to Thanksgiving.
Right.
If you can, because it's just going to be a diet otherwise.
Right.
As you well know, I'm sure, you're speaking to her, that you've tried a ton of diets and you lose a little bit of weight and then you gain twice as much.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, every time. I'm like, yep. Well, so, and she's like, yeah, but man, I can't have rice and beans.
Well, this is why, once again, I think the emotional or the mindfulness stuff is so important, because a lot of times it's so emotional. We're so invested in our memories, and, we don't even know how deep those memories go. They can be in our DNA all the way back to our parents, our parents and our grandparents who have been eating rice and beans for generations. So it's like that, those memories are stored so deeply in us. And it is so important that people look at, okay, why am I so attached to these things?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with her, and I'm happy for her that she found you. And I'm a true believer. We all run into each other at the right time when it's the right.
Yeah, your car won't get out of reverse.
Yep.
It's just the darndest stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you want to say to folks out there who are just getting started on their wellness picture? Just from your perspective, what are some words of encouragement that you can give to people who are either just getting started on the wellness picture, just found Be the Wellness? Maybe just if you could, in your own words, give them a little bit of a pep talk.
Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. How would you like to live?
Yeah.
Because I got to tell you that in my case, I was existing to die. I was just surviving, and I wasn't doing it very successfully. I was constantly stressed out. I was, I literally had one foot in the grave. I had my cardiologist tell me to get my affairs in order. And when I just went back to him, he's like, you quit smoking. I don't see 75 as an unreasonable target.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm 52. And,
Right.
really, I just added 23 years to my life.
Wow.
That's a third of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just a big win.
Yeah, I'll take that. Sure. I literally feel better than I ever have in my life. That includes being a kid. And I think it's interesting that there's, I'm going to segue. Gee, go figure. Stu. It's very interesting that an awful lot of people in the Be the Wellness program are in my demographic in terms of age.
Right.
There just aren't that many of us. We're tail end boomers, not yet Xers.
Mm.
And we're just not that huge a group.
Mm-hmm.
But we're the first ones who grew up on nothing but casseroles, processed food, high C, and high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so true.
And I think that the people that are in their 70s now that also ate it, like my mother, are, your body can handle a certain amount of poison.
Right. And they've only been getting it for, half of their life instead of
precisely.
Right.
And, but the scales have tipped. There's just too much poison in and things that aren't food, that maybe it's not toxins or poisons. Maybe it's just, that your body, your organs are saying, what is that? What am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
Come on. That's not food.
We're going to have to make something up. Yeah. Not
How
sure what to do with this one.
Yeah. Well, that's such a great way to look at it, because like you said, so many people are just existing. And I think that so many people are kind of stuck on the hamster wheel, and they're just doing the same thing over and over, and they're getting a similar cascade of results, but they don't know how to get out of that cycle, because all of the things that we hear around us, especially when it comes to diet and wellness, is kind of the same dogma, and a lot of folks just don't know how to step out of what the normal stuff is prescribed to them. So it's really cool. I think that's such a great question for people to ask them.
How do you want to live?
Yeah.
Like this or another way? Because I think some people don't even think they can.
Is it worth a month of your life that you're stuck on the hamster wheel anyway?
Right.
to see if it's going to get different,
Right. Well, and it's so great to hear from you, because you really, you've beat all the odds.
Yeah,
across the board.
I'm just the weight, the physical aspects, the so many different diagnoses of ailments, the mental stuff. I am so blown away. And here's the thing. It's just stupid simple.
Right.
It's the way that people have lived for 95 out of the 100,000 years.
Right.
Right.
And we did just fine. Okay, maybe we got hit by a bear.
Right.
Or fell off a cliff. But,
Yeah, that could still happen.
It
could still do that. But far more dangerous is the McDonald's. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't have a month of, doing the same old?
Right.
You've tried, especially the people that were in my situation that have tried 10 to 20, 30 in my case, different diets.
Right.
They're all about the same length of time. It's all about a month,
Right.
that you need to do it, and don't step on the scale for a month, and gee whiz.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just so important because, I think folks look at, someone like Adam and I, and they're like, oh yeah, well, it's easy for you guys. Like you're athletes or, like you preach all this stuff, but you really you don't know what it's like to be in a position like you were in. And so it's so awesome for people to hear your story because literally there's no reason you can't heal yourself.
Totally. And not just hear your story, but the fact that you're actively pursuing the consulting component to try to share your experience with it. Like it is so much more powerful to have, Jared from Subway, right? Like, there's, you know what I mean? Like there's no way they're like, well, I've been skinny and I eat Subway and I'm still skinny. Like, no, that is not as impactful.
Yeah, that doesn't quite do it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you recognize that component to it, Vanessa, because I gotta tell you that when I guess I was a few days into the challenge. I didn't even realize who the coaches were or anything. I'm just like, all right, fine, 21-day challenge. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
right.
Need to get back on the bandwagon. And in my case, it wasn't a matter of going primal. It was not eating quite as much of the primal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like phase 2.
Yeah, and actually getting back to the the meat and vegetables as opposed to primal ginger snaps, primal eclairs, primal ice cream, primal.
Like, oh, this is amazing! Primal's so easy.
Ooh, primal tiramisu.
Yeah, that's so true. Everyone kind of goes through that cascade of events where they clean it up and then they realize, wait, I can still have pancakes?
Like, okay, so no, I can't.
Yeah.
Or less often.
Maybe not every day, though.
Yes, yeah. Well, no, it's true. Actually, I was just talking with another person in our group the other day, and, she was kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I'm plateauing. And I said, I'm so sorry, but at some point you have to start eating less. It's so sad when you get to that point where it's like, oh no, do I actually just have to eat a little less and, a little bit, make sure I don't add the primal treats in. And
right.
Oh, man, that's really unfortunate.
It's so sad that when that day comes.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point because I've noticed that in the past 2 weeks. Now the days are getting dramatically shorter. Okay, so I'm not working outside as much, and there's less to do on my farm, which doesn't mean that there's less to do.
Right.
It's just but with the days getting shorter, me sleeping more, I'm eating less, and I didn't even you mentioning that just put it in my head. I really am. So, wow, I'm really getting grounded.
Yeah,
this is cool.
Yeah, you're everything's working. It's that fine tuning of your intuition that's like the trick. Just let your body do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to get back to it, when I'm in the thing, I didn't even know who was coaches. I'm in the Primal 21-day challenge, and I see your picture for Be the Wellness, and I'm like, oh, please. Couple of California flaky kids.
Sitting on the
beach.
It is pretty funny. You see that photo is, it's deceiving. Well, it's not deceiving, but I think people are usually pleasantly surprised. Like,
okay, fine. Oh, look, a firefighter. And a pixie.
Yeah.
What do they know about being fat?
No, it is so important though, because I do think, we really tried to make this program for everybody, and it's not just for the fittest athletes, although it can serve those people. We wanted to make sure that it was all inclusive and there was something for everyone. And I'm glad that you are kind of you're a guide actually for many people coming in now, that when they have those same thoughts, you can say, no, you know what, I thought that too, but actually turns out this is for me too.
Is okay. Yeah, this is working out.
Well, if you run across too many morbidly obese, broken down, former military, One foot in the grave, drunks. Yeah, sure.
You know, it's funny. Like you basically just described 50% of the people that I work with in the fire department.
Well, yes, my cousin's a paramedic and has been for many years. I know that's true.
Yeah, yeah, it's a rough life.
It is a very rough life. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Stu, and folks that are new to Be the Wellness, you can reach Stu in the Be the Wellness feed at Primordial Stuart. Actually, I think you have to go at Stuart Doyle.
Correct, but then it comes up
and then
as
it comes up as
Primordial
Primordial
Stu. Yeah.
And we highly recommend anyone who has questions or needs encouragement to hit him up because he's quite the
and
resource.
Just read the things that come up because they're hilarious.
Yes.
I mean, well, not just hilarious, but hilarious and heartfelt and like actually meaningful. You're a very, very good writer.
Yeah,
and it's
thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm hoping that I'm not driving some folks away with, oh, this guy again, won't he shut up?
Well, you know, you don't have to read it. Like that's, you know what I mean? Throw it out there.
It's the beauty of it.
Yeah, you can be like, oh, moving on. Or, wow, this was hilarious and really impacted my day.
Yeah, it's usually worth it, though.
Good.
It's worth the read.
Yeah. So are you at a point yet with your newfound consulting endeavor that you have a place where people can check you out? Or, I mean, as far as website,
no.
Facebook, something like that? Okay. All right. Well, once you get there, let us know, and we'll have you back on, and we can talk about.
I'll let you guys plug. Sure,
yeah.
absolutely,
yeah, absolutely,
no problem. I'm actually at a point right now where the Primal Catering is. I'm really trying to transition my catering business that I've pretty much folded, just because I can't even work with flour anymore without my joints hurting. And I think it's just, it's that. Look, you've overloaded me too long, like you were saying with the serotonin. It's kind of the same kind of thing.
Right.
You've overloaded me too long. I'm not going to take it now that I know what it feels like not to be desperate all the time.
Right.
So.
Yeah, well, I think there's something too, when I go full hippie on it, that once your vibration changes, you just can't, you don't want to participate in certain things anymore. It's just like the vibration doesn't work anymore. And whether or not it's the actual absorption of the flour through your fingers or just, I just don't believe in this so much that I just don't want to be part of the chain.
Well, yeah. Or, is it the flour or is it the inherent guilt of, gee whiz, kids are eating this.
Yeah.
Aren't I a nice guy? I'm regular Ronald McDonald here.
Yeah. If only people knew better. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I do know better.
Exactly.
Well, that's awesome. We're so glad that you are making a little dent in your corner of the universe, because that's really what it's about, is everyone just sort of, affecting their immediate circle. And like you said before, it's sad we're not all in the same place, but this is the cool thing about it, is that I think of us as seeds being planted all over the world. Literally, we're all over the world, and we can all kind of nurture our own gardens and start to expand this energy as far as we can, and hopefully at some point it'll all connect.
Well, that's awesome.
The Vivify mycelium, it's just all connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so pleasant to talk to you guys, and such an honor, I really must say.
Yeah, I'm so glad we were able to pull this off. It's
Yes.
like, I think it's really important to put a voice to people who are, certainly who contribute as much as you do to the program, and just to hear the stories in your voice is awesome. Like that's something that I thoroughly enjoy.
Yes, absolutely.
It's an old Tom Lehrer. You guys are way too young to remember him. I was a child when I heard him. It's one of his lines is, this program is like a sewer. What you get out of it depends upon what you put into it.
Can we use it as our new tagline?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure that's actually some really good sales
You'll
copy.
get anything but sanitation workers.
No, that's awesome.
That is a super
well,
awesome.
and I think that's true in life, right? It's basically what you put in is what you get out. And, we're definitely just trying to put a little bit more love back in there. So hopefully we get it back.
Just pull a little bit more out.
Exactly. And thank you so much for the program.
Oh, absolutely.
Literally, guys, I gotta say, you have so changed and saved my life.
Oh man, that is the best possible compliment that we could get. And thank you. Thanks for being part of it, Stu. You are such an awesome piece to this whole puzzle that we just really appreciate it.
Yes. And, you're a sponge, too, because Adam and I were just saying yesterday,
there's the truth.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances in this world, in the paleo primal sphere. And, Adam and I have sort of a particular vintage of what we think and kind of how we think everything should be massaged into wellness. And you have just picked up on the nuances so completely.
Yeah, exactly. You start reading Stu's comments on things, you're like, oh. Yep, I'm just going to go ahead and like that comment because that you pretty much nailed it. In fact, that's much more articulate than I was going to pound in here with my big thumbs. Yeah.
Well, we like your opinion, so it's all good.
Well, that's the true measure of intelligence, how much people agree with you.
Shoot, I thought it was how much you could make them laugh.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'll have to think about that one. Where does that put me? But that's awesome. So thanks again, Stu. We really do appreciate your time, and it was really awesome getting to know you and chit chat. So we're going to wrap this up, and we will see you in the feed.
Thank you so much.